Sociocracy starts with the concept developed by the Quakers, so the religious society of friends, which started talking about nonviolence, principle of no objections to proposals, and principle of equality in decisions. And one of the Quakers, Kees Burke, in the beginning of the 19th century, was a Dutch pacifist and educator, and decided to apply those principles in a school. And so he created the Werkelplatz in 1926. So one of the first experiments of sociocracy, it's actually in one school. And then one alumni of the Werkelplatz started to apply this principle in his organization. And this is Hindenburg, which actually is considered the founding father of sociocracy. So we can see that since the very beginning, sociocracy and education have been linked very much. And you can see in the website of Wandering School, that's a screenshot that I have about the diffusion of sociocracy in schools. But as you can see, it's spreading more and more worldwide. So what are the key elements of sociocracy? Being it a form of governance, we need, in every time we have a governance, we need to understand three main pillars. The first one is how we make decision. The second is who make decision. And the third one that we would add is how we improve over time. So the two first are really connected with every form of governance. When we have a governance, we need to know how and who make decisions. In sociocracy, we had also the improvement part, which is always connected with the governance. That's why we call it actually a dynamic governance method, because it improves over time. And in sociocracy, we make decision by consent. So that's how we make decision. We make decision inside linked circles. And so people make decision without the circle, and we improve over time through feedback. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go through these three pillars and see how we can apply them in schools. We're gonna do before another thing is I'm gonna explain you actually why do we need sociocracy in school very briefly, and I would depart from a research result from a project that is called Sociocracy. You can find about this in our website. It's a 2 years project that we developed with the Sociocratic Center in Austria to spread the sociocracy in schools. And we had the research, some webinars, workshop, and some guidelines. So you can also use those guidelines and bring it to your school, because it's very clear bullet points on how what are the action needed to promote sociocracy for every actors. But now I'm going to give you a quick overview about the results of the research, because I think it's really important to understand what's the benefit of sociocracy in school. We interviewed 21 sociocratic schools in Europe, and those are the results of the benefit for children and students. We realized that there is a positive effect on children's sense of belonging, empowerment, responsibility, and citizenship. Students were much more motivated, responsible, and engaged in making change, not only in the school, but also within the community. All schools agree that it was easy and spontaneous to apply sociocracy with children. However, it gets easier when children or students are more than 10 years old. And another positive effect is that sociocracy then is spread into families through the children and the students. And so this created a big cultural change that doesn't remain in the school, but spread in the society. We also interviewed many teachers, and what was the outcome that we saw is that according to them, there was an increased motivation of staff, increased collaboration, and also teacher, like in schools, Sociocracy school, it was very easy to find teachers. So we know that there is a shortage of teachers in many countries, but Sociocracy school didn't have any problem about that. They had a clear understanding of the roles and the competences they had, and they had more efficient and enjoyable staff meetings. Finally, we also analyzed the benefits of school management. So for school management, applying sociocracy was really beneficial because the decisions were supported by all the teams, so not only by the headmasters. And once they were supported by the teachers, they were much more viable as they were taken together. Sharing the power allowed to have much more time to the headmaster, so not having all the administrative burden on their shoulder. It was a much more effective division of task and the effective decision making. And all in all, it was creating a more inclusive culture in the school, aligning the school with what are the EU key competencies on citizenship education. So this was really allowing the school to develop a more innovative way of really fostering competencies, citizenship competence in students. So this was the general overview of the benefits, and now we go in the practice of how does sociocracy work in school. And we start with the first, let's say, key principle that I'm going to show you today, and it's about who makes decision. As I said, in sociocracy, decisions are made in linked circle organization, because sociocratic organizations are composed of a hierarchy of semi-autonomous circles. So there is a hierarchy in sociocracy, but this hierarchy does not constitute a power structure per se. It's more an operational hierarchy that is based on specificity. So the so-called mission circle, which is the one that holds the vision and the mission of the organization, as a very broad domain, because it looks at the big strategy. The general circle, it's the one that takes care that all the operational circle are connected together as a less broad domain, but still has to have a look in all circles. And then there are the operational circle that have a very specific and narrow domain and area of work. So this hierarchy is more about specificity. It's not an hierarchical, a vertical organization in this sense. So, but the three kind of circle we always have it's our operational circle, general circle, and mission circle. Organization can be very simple, like the one here at the left, where we have 3 operational circle, 1 general circle, and 1 mission circle, or very complex, as the one you can see here in the right side. It depends, of course, on the size of people involved in the organization. Yes, Diego.
Yes, I was wondering if one person can belong to more than one circle at a certain time, so you can be part of one operational circle and at the same time being part of the other, I can't remember the names, the other type of circles.
Yes, what is very important in sociocracy, and we would see this later on, is that persons are different than roles. So you can be one person, but having different roles. And that's what happened, for instance, in small schools, where you have maybe 10 people in all the school, And it's normal that at the beginning, one person is in different roles and in different circles. What is really important is that there is a clear role. So when you sit in one circle, you are sitting with this role and not with the other role. And therefore, you have a very clear sphere of decision, and we would see later what does it entail. But it's normal that in every organization at the beginning, everyone is doing many things. But what Sociocracy is helping you is to segment that every time you sit into something, you have a specific role and you don't bring the other's role to the decision table. But so in order to create this, what is an important precondition for schools, but for any organization, is that we have a clear vision, mission, and aims of the organization. I guess you know the difference, but just to repeat it, a vision is what set out the world as how we would like to see it. So it's a vision statement that starts normally with the format of we believe in a world that is in this way and that way. The mission operationalize the vision, and it tells us what your school, for instance, does to bring that vision, that world vision, to reality. So it's a shared purpose of the school. And the aims, again, operationalize the mission and telling us very specifically how the mission will be achieved. Aims should be tangible and measurable. And those are very important because all the aims will compose the circles. So if we don't have a clear aims, we would never be able to have circles. Here I'm just draw an example of a school vision, mission, and aims that you can read. But what is really important is that, for instance, we have 3 different aims that derive from vision and missions. So the vision is a world where everyone can develop a confident and responsible individuals who aspire to achieve their full potential. The mission is providing a welcome, safe, supporting learning environment that ensures children are equipped with all necessary skills, knowledge, and attributes, etc., etc. And the aims derived from that is providing space for children to develop their competences, soft and hard skill during school time, and to discover themselves through play, exploration, and self-directed time. Provide a solid managerial structure and enough funding that allow the school to run smoothly, and accompany parents and external person in their path to align to the school vision by offering trainings and meetings. If we have 3 aims here, for instance, we see that we need to have 3 different circles. One, that it's the pedagogical circle that responds to the first aim. The second one, it's more the supporting administrative circle. And the third one, it's a circle that creates training for parents. So this structure would have a mission circle, a general circle, and 3 operational circles. So circles are where decisions are taken. What is really important to remind, it's circles typically have between 3 and 12 members maximum, because we would see later that we need to take decision with consent. And so we cannot be 50 people. The risk in many schools or in many organizations that is they want to have plenary sessions because they believe in the value of being all together in a plenary, but then they never achieve consent in many people. So the suggestion is then when a group is becoming larger, to divide in different subgroups so that we can remain a small unit that can work smoothly. As I said, each circle has an aim. So the description of what the circle does, and a domain. The domain is the field where the circle can decide about. This is the most important topic for a school. It's really what is the area of decision of every circle. And the domain is what allows a circle to be autonomous and decided autonomously about this or aim. Why the domain is important? Because what is the student domain in a school would change completely the vision of the school itself. So before we start a shared governance, we need to answer very clearly about what's the student domain in my school, what's the parent domain, what's the teacher domain. There is no a right and wrong answer. Every school has a different answer to this according to their own pedagogy, according to their own values, but it's extremely important that we we have answer to those questions. So according to the different answer, we will have a different school organization. The domains allows clear boundaries because it allows the sphere when, for instance, parents can decide. And if it's clearly set that parents can decide just on organizing parties, and it's clear, then they would not be able to decide on pedagogy, for instance, but because it's clearly set. It is also very important to let students know very well what's their domain, so to create false expectations from them. Some schools, they started with involving students in sociocracy, saying, yes, we will all decide together, but then they realized that they couldn't give as much power, as much big domain to students, and this create a big disappointment and breach of trust. So what are the example of students' domain? Some school give to students the domain of planning events or doing fundraising activities or running school activities, or decide what movie watch, what book to read together, how to spend some part of students' fund, or what even we can decide about what rules changing in the school, deciding about elective subjects or what to study and learn at school. This is, for instance, a key decision in democratic schools. It's really to what extent we give the possibility, we enlarge student domain. And that's also why we say that sociocracy can be applied in every kind of school besides their pedagogical approach. What will probably change, it's really to how big the domain of the students is. In democratic school, the domain of the students, it's quite large. In subsidiary schools, the domain of the students is almost equal as the domain of the teachers, because they can decide in almost every topic. They have different role, but the domain remains the same. Of course, if we go, for instance, for Summerhill schools, it becomes even a little bit smaller. And then we got even smaller the least self-directed the school is. So what I would like to hear from you here is what is actually the domain of the students in your school, if you have reflected about the importance of this domain, and if you think that it could be enlarged or changed. And I leave the floor to you. Please, Diego.
Okay, so you will hear some background noises here because there's some people chatting in the room at the same time. But yeah, we have more or less a clear domain of what, for example, students can and cannot. The domain of the students here at school is everything that has to do with safety, for example. Safety issues like how many students can be jumping on a trampoline or where we can be at a certain time. Those things remain out of their scope, their domain, and is the domain of the managers of the school. the pedagogical team. They can decide how to spend their time in different hours during the day, but what hours of those is decided by the pedagogical team. They have some self-directed time, and they can choose from different opportunities to learn on different topics, but they cannot, for example, use certain spaces at the time. So more or less, even though it's not written completely clearly in the Sociocratic language, but we have a set of like regulations here at the school.
Thank you. Men, do you want to tell us something about your school?
Sure. I'd say in my school, it's more traditional way, I mean, traditional schooling. So we have students committee actually, but it's really, you know, they're not so autonomous. So you have two teachers who drives that committee, and the idea is to run some projects in schools, but it's projects for keeping good health or about ecology and these kind of things, but it doesn't change anything, I guess, about the structure of the school itself. So I think they don't really have, you know, a voice about that the structure of the way the school is ruled, you know. Even for the teacher, sometimes difficult. So I'd say yes, it's very, very traditional way of doing it, and I think yes, sociocracy could really empower them to be less, I'd say, passive, because they become passive because of that. And when we ask them what you want to do, that I think they really don't know actually, because they're not trained to ask themselves, what do I want? What do I want to change? And yes, so it's a pity for me, and then so that there's a great hope here to change education.
Yeah, it's a pity, but at the same time, just having one teacher that has a different view, it's a big potential in change. And what you say about this passive posture, it's quite normal, of course, and it takes a long time. So you could not even expect that from one day to another they would suddenly wake up, because it's they have probably raised in a culture that treat them as passive. So the process of reawakening, it's a really long one, and it's something that we see in democratic schools, like children coming from more traditional setting where they were not grant voices. They take longer time to adapt to freedom and to listen to themselves and understand, well, what I actually want to bring here in the public space. So I think what you are witnessing is it's a common pattern, unfortunately. But so thanks for having shared with me your experience in your school.
Pleasure.
Here I bring two examples of how school structure could look. Yes,
Martina, I don't know if you're seeing that we also have a third participant. Hi, Magda. Hi. Maybe you want to share as well?
Sorry, Magda, I haven't seen you because you were hide. I had just saw three. Yes.
No problem. Hello, everyone. I actually joined a little bit later. That's why. Actually, our experience is actually we are in the process of creating a democratic school, which is about to launch in September 2024, and I'm one of the persons who is co-creating the school and the space, but I don't have actually a first-hand experience. So actually, this is a big eye-opener for me. Actually, it puts a lot of things in order for me. You know, out of chaos, I can see some order. which is very, you know, reassuring, and there is structure basically, and it makes a lot of things much clearer to me. So thank you.
Thank you, Magda, for having shared, and good luck with the start of your project.
We
I
also,
see there.
yeah, there's another Kilian, welcome.
Yes, hello. Sorry for being late. I had an impromptu meeting at school, so I couldn't get out of it. I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah, hi, welcome. Maybe we can continue.
Maybe just tell us, where are you from, and in which school are you connected with?
Sure. Sorry. So I work in Brussels. I've been teaching for 9 years now. Like Mun, actually, I know Mun from Teach for Belgium. So we did the program together. I teach economics mostly, and in a school in a very low income, social income school level. And I mostly I do all the projects in the school. So I try to settle the pedagogic vision of the school with the students mostly. So this is why Sociocratic school organization really interests me. I'm very sorry for being late.
Thank you. Magda, where are you building your school? In Poland? Where?
I'm in Poland, in southeast of Poland.
Okay. So thank you very much. So you will be able to see what we discussed so far, because this will be recorded and shared with you. But we have been finished a discussion about the student domain, and important to clarify what's the student domain in schools. So what's the area where we can take they can take decision. But the same thing, it's also relevant for parents, for teachers, like for all actors involved in a sociocratic organization. The first question is, what is my role, and what's my domain, and what's the domain within the circle I'm in? Once we know this, we are empowered to take decisions, and we know that we cannot take decisions in other circles. Those kind of boundaries are really healthy boundaries in schools, and it prevents a lot of conflicts and prevents a lot of crises. Moreover, with parents, when we ran the one year research, we saw that one of the biggest challenges in sociocratic organization were actually parents thinking that because it was a sociocratic organization, they could actually decide on everything. So the concept of domain circle creates a safe boundaries to protect for instance, the pedagogical circle from other circles that want to have a voice and so protect everyone and every work. Here, what you can see is a different from two different organization drawn. The one on the right side is it's a little bit more complex. They have what you see, it's the board is actually the mission circle. So the board is the one that brings the vision of the school and maintains the vision of the school. So maintain the fact that the school really are there to the long-term vision, long-term planning. The school circle is what we described before as the general circle, where it's only a circle that only shares information between the operational circles. In the left image, you can see there is a parent circle, a support circle, a teacher circle, and a student circle. Probably what happened is that in the support circle, there were too many staff, and then they divided in sub-circle in a way that decisions were more effectively according to their domain. And the same thing, they decided for student circle to divide according to years, age of students. On the right side, we have a very much more easier design of a school, which was actually the school that that I coordinated before starting Quest. And so we had just a general circle, a support circle, the school circle, and the research circle. But we were also like 10 staff and 15 students. So it was manageable to keep it quite simple. So within the circle, we have specific roles that allow connections of one circle to another. So every circle is independent in its decision making because have a domain, and so they can decide on something. But it's important that we have connection between different circles, and this is allowed by two roles. One is the role of the leader, and one is the role of the delegate. The leader is the one that oversees the operation of the circle, so basically carry the aim of the circle, knows where the circle is to go, and so makes that everything is in line with the aim. Whereas the delegate is the one that represents the circle in what we call the parent circle, so in the general circle. And having these two persons, it's really important so that there is not just one person that has all the burden. It allows also check and balance. And then there are other two roles that are important. One is the facilitator, so it's the person that facilitates the meetings, and the secretary is the one that takes note. In the next slides later on, I will explain you in detail how to do it with children, maybe with smaller children, but also with more elder students, and to make it funnier. But here, just to explain you how there is a feedback loop and communication among all circles that is allowed by having different roles, because those persons, like leader and delegate, they attend both their own circle, but also the upper circle, so the general circle meetings. And so they are the ones that bring the information up and down. This is a little bit how organizations are created, and I guess that's interesting, for instance, for Magda, that it's about to create an organization. So normally, the initial phase of school and organization, there is probably only the mission circle. So it's a group of founders that have an idea, they believe in something, and they have this strong desire to do something, and they create a mission circle. But at the end of the day, not all of them might just continue working in the practicality of the school. So some of them just remain in the mission circle, so being the guardian angel of the vision, and others will start working in the operation, and so they will join the general circle. So in a second phase, there will be only the mission circle and the general circle. And then at some point, a division will be done because some person would just take care of some aspects and some other aspects. And in this way, we create the operational circles, keeping in mind that for the first years, the general circle would still do the tasks that are left over, that the task that remains, that no operational circle is taking care of. So normally it's in the first years, the general circle will also still work on some tasks, with the idea that in the long term, when we have a mature organization, the general circle will only take care of sharing communication among the organizational circles. Here I wanted to propose you an exercise to draw your school organization. I don't know if you are interested in doing this, if you already have done this or not. So the idea was taking 5 minutes and redesign your school by using the circle method, so by using one mission circle, one general circle, and divide it then in different operational circle. Would you be interested in doing this exercise?
I might say yes, but my organization really looks like the one you presented on the left-hand side of the slide, you know. So I can do the work, and what I can do is also like represent the circle by size, you know, of importance. For instance, the parents would be like very, very small in my school, but administration would be bigger. You see, I can change like this. I could do that.
Okay, so let's say I give you 5 minutes, if it's okay for you, to do this exercise. It's a way of reflecting about your organization, thinking about the things we have considered now. So the domain, the aims, for instance, Kilian, if it's already like the same, you can think about the domain of every circle and what maybe you would like to change, what needs to be clarified. And if you finish before 5 minutes, you can also take a small break.
And what's the purpose of that exercise, please?
The purpose is to clarify your organization, to see who does what, if all the domains are aligned with the aims of the organization. And so, but if you already have a sociocratic organization, probably that it's in place.
No. Just, I was wondering to whom I could present it, so it's okay. Thank you.
So it's 5:30, so we can see each other at 5:35. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Because I didn't get it right, I think. Did you want us to draw the actual structure of our organization, and or the one we would like to have in terms of sociocracy, sorry?
Yes, so it's basically transform your organization into a sociocratic structure.
Okay.
So if you already have one, you can maybe just tell us how it's structured. But if it's not that way, maybe the exercise is thinking about how your organization could look like in a sociocratic structure. So which kind of circle would you have? How many operational circle? Would they be divided into sub-circle because maybe there are many people, or because there are specific tasks? Do you have already a general circle? Will a mission circle be a board? Who will be there? So you can reflect on these aspects.
If we don't have it, like we want to go there, but we don't still have it.
You can design as you imagine it will be. So
Okay.
It doesn't need to be the clear picture of now. It's really where you want to go.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, see you in 3 minutes. Hello, welcome back. How was it?
Interesting.
Very deep.
Very surprising.
Nice. So maybe we can have a quick harvesting round, 2 minutes each, or maybe 1 minute, in which you tell me what have you created, and what was surprising about this exercise. We can work in round. So I see it's Magda, Diego, Men, and Kilan.
Okay. So as I said, we don't have a school yet, but we have a mission circle already. And this is a very basic structure, which I think that would be great to have it in the first year. So there's a mission circle, a general circle. I remember what you said about the things which nobody has taken care of. So I think that's the domain of a general circle for the very beginning. Teacher circle, parent circle, and student circle. Yeah, that's how I see it. You said that the beginning can be less complex than that. Yeah.
Yes, and then based on needs of the circle, we get more and more specific.
Because I see a huge, need of having a teacher circle and a parent circle, plus student circle. So I actually cannot imagine in this idea of sociocracy not having these three. Is it possible?
Yeah, of course, that could be a start building block in which, in this case, you will have teacher deciding and having different domain than children. For instance, for the image that I show you, here, we didn't have a teacher circle separate from student circle because all the decisions were taken together. So there was no need, for instance, in having students and parents circle separated.
Okay, so but the teachers were included in the decision process. It's just that they didn't have their separate circle.
In this school circle, it was teachers and students together taking decision about the pedagogy of the school.
Okay. Okay.
So
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Who was the second one? Because now it changed again. I think it was Men, the second.
I think it was Diego, but I can
Diego, okay, it changed. I can write here in the chat the orders.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Okay, so I had already given a thought about this during these past years. As I said at the beginning, we're trying to head towards a sociocratic organization in our school. So I already have some ideas, but very basic so far. We would like to have like the school circle. We have you can see from here, student circle, families and staff. The only difference with Magda, I think, would be the board. And the board has, I don't know how to place that, has a consultancy circle. They don't make decisions, but they help the board make decisions. And that's what we have now. And I would also like to bring here situation that I don't know how you usually manage this in sociocratic institutions that have already a legal structure. Like, for example, in our case, our school is not a charity. It has the legal form of it's incorporated. It's like business, and the business itself, by law, has an internal structure on how it's run. So it's not sociocratic. how do you insert that structure, which ultimately the business managers are the ones who have the last vote or the last word on anything on the school. How do you make that work in a sociocratic environment? Because the school is one thing and the business that run the school is another thing, but they cannot live one without the other.
Yes, that's a very important question. And it's not only about having companies running the school. This is the same thing even when the schools are NGOs. Because they have a but even in public schools, because their legal structure, it's sometimes binding you to having roles that cannot be sociocratic. So there are normally we need to find a middle ground in a way that the legal structure is included in the sociocratic structure. What's going on, for instance, in the case of schools that are NGOs as well. For instance, I imagine in the Belgian law, you are bound to have a general assembly. And normally the General Assembly are huge assemblies that have all the power because have the power to elect the board. This goes kind of against the sociocratic structure where the decisions are taken bottom down by people that work in the organization. And so it goes in very two diverse way. But what's we normally do is that we put the General Assembly within the board of the director, so within the mission circle. And so we reduce the General Assembly to its minimum, and it becomes the mission circle. So that's a sort of the same thing that you could do, Diego, in the company. So say the founders of the company could be the mission circle, because at the end of the day, those are the ones that are there to maintain the vision of the organization. So it makes sense that they are part of the mission circle.
But then the truth is that they have veto right. Like you can even stop running the company. You decide that you want to do another thing. You have full authority on anything that happens in the school. So it's, for me, this is a very contradictory situation, because we decided to go that way because it was easier and it was quicker and more agile. But it's very, very top-down structure. And you can fake a little bit that you're going to introduce other people's decision, and you can allow and consent to those decisions. But if there's something that you just don't want to accept, you have the right of veto and to block anything that the
Yes, that's true, but it's also true that we need to live with the legal organization that exists in our current situation. And there are countries where it's definitely easier to have sociocratic organization, Austria, Switzerland, and those that, for instance, allow having organizations that are very similar to this. In country where this is not possible, I think the only thing we can do is trying to find a way that using legal structure as a way of, just because we have them, but the internally person are trying to have a chart and that is based on sociocratic values. One of ways to doing it, for instance, is writing a statutes that decline that one of the values is, for instance, decision by consent in circle. So that's a way that even if then the legal company as at the end of the day more all the power, the relationship with the people are regulated by an internal chart that is agreed internally.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's go, Men.
Yes. I draw something really rapidly. I don't know. Oh, maybe it's not really clear. I guess.
No, we don't see back.
Back.
No.
You have the
Okay.
filter. You have the filter on, so you cannot see.
Yeah. I'm gonna just tell you because maybe it's gonna be easier. Otherwise you're going to see all the mess behind. So okay, I'd say in the center we have the principal. It's really what it is, because the principal has the final decision on everything in our structure today. We have the circles around it. Could be the plan de pilotage. I know if you're familiar with that, I guess so. But then it's more like, how do you say that in English? Consultation. You can give what you think of directions, but you don't have any decisional power in that. So even though you propose something, if it's not possible and the direction committee says it's not possible, then it's not possible. We have the student circle. I told you about that, but it's quite small and it's managed by teachers. We have a board. I'd say board PO, how do you translate that? Pouvoir organisateur, it's organizational power, you know? So it's it's the structure. Yes, I think it's for the circles in sociocracy, it would be the mission circle, I guess. We have administrative circle, and we have also, let's say, company committee. It's where you have the union and so on, and so they discuss about matters, legal matters, or internal structure of the school, or if we have things to do in school like renovation, then it's in that circle. And interestingly, the two circles are missing. One is the parent circle, because in our school, as we are in low socioeconomic backgrounds, as I said previously, we have a lot of parents who don't speak French, or they're not so involved in the education, at least in the school. So it's really hard for us to have them coming in our school. And the second one is the research circle. I would be so interested, as I have a scientific research background, I would be so interested to have this pedagogical, research circle, but there's nothing like that here, and I think in most traditional schools. So yes, as say Diego, I can, comment on this, and as the law is structured, I guess in Belgium, the principal still have at the end of the day, all the responsibility for all decisions that are taken. So it's hard, I guess, for the person in charge of this role as a principal to let go, it's difficult, because they know that if something goes wrong, then they are responsible for it legally. So they tend to keep, the reins and to take the final decision on everything. So it's not so easy then in this context.
Thank you. Kylian?
Yes, I'll try to go quick, but so this is the draw. So there are a lot of little scratches there, because in Belgium we have teachers and we have also educators who works within school. And in my school it was, it's very dysfunctional. So I wanted to put them with the teachers, but at the end I wanted to put them here in the school. But then I said, okay, so there are more support, but mostly for me they should work hand in hand with the teacher, which is not the case right now. Also in the support we have the commune, because it's a public school and it's organized by the commune. And if my school is disorganized, I might say that the commune is like hell. It's you cannot count on them. They manage financial support. They hire people, and I don't know how they do their job, but it's a nightmare. So this is what we had to deal with. So it's been 10 years now that I'm working in that school with Men's context. It's a very low social economical school. So what I wanted to do is to involve more the parents. For that, I have to say that I failed. I don't know how to do that, because it's very, very tough. But still, I wanted to do school led by the students. So this is my beautiful handwriting over there. So the purpose is we created councils where with elections, democratic elections, where the students have a board, and this board has to stand 2 times a month. And in this board, you have the students, the educators, teachers, the staff, the administrative staff. And every 2 weeks, we decide stuff like this. It's less and less top down, but more and more bottom up. So, but still, it's still, as Mun said, the principal is like a god, so she decides everything and you have to follow that. But still, no, all the projects are led by the students. So we don't do anything but the things the students decided to do, because this is what is important for them. So it's also a way to create, to communicate, because most of the time in school, which is why it's failing, is because there is no communication between people. So you can have emails, you can have papers, you can have everything, but communication is still lacking. So those councils, it's a 1 hour thing. And it's very, that's for me, it opened my eyes of how school should be led. Really have to be led by students, because when you see how they, it's funny, because I noticed that I rather prefer working with students than with my colleagues now, because my colleagues, sometimes they are very skilled, but they lack motivation, like a lot. And you have students who are very motivated. If you ask the students, you will notice that it's just crazy how they want and how they are willing to play a role and how they are willing to do stuff. But they are completely like unskilled. They don't know how to compute and where to start. So that's the job. But that's very, the shift, having a school leading by the students is very, very interesting. And for me, it's one of the key to Sociocratic school. But that's one of the point, and I'm very looking forward to seeing what can be done. To emphasize this and to do this better.
So if I can just maybe add on that, at Quest, besides the focus on sociocracy, we work a lot on democratic education in public school. And we have now a project with 10 countries in Europe, in which in every country we have democratic school and public school. And the idea is to bridge and bringing skills also to teachers from conventional school. And one of the goals is really facilitate that the school gets more and more led by students. And there will be a training for teachers run in winter, really focus on public school. And we had just a documentary. We went in Estonia, where there is one democratic completely public school run democratically, in order to inspire other schools to see that actually in the framework of public school, it's possible to put in practice student-led education and management. So we would be able to forward maybe more information and insight on that, so you can have also practical tools, not only part of sociocracy, but also about how can we implement, like student-led learning can be implemented in the context of public education. And here in Belgium, we work with the Go School group, trying to implement this in Go School Group Brussels. Okay, let's go ahead, because I see already 1 hour and a half passed, and there are many things I want to discuss with you still. Do you see my screen? Yes. Okay, so let's go ahead. So we discuss about where we take decision and who takes decision. And now we need to discuss about the second pillar, is how we make decisions in sociocracy. And of course, it's renewed that in sociocracy we use consent. Consent decision-making is very different from consensus, which means unanimity. Just to be sure, Ellen, are you recording?
Yeah.
Okay, just And it's, of course, different by majority. When we talk about consents, we mean that there are no objection to a decision, so that we can live with a decision. And decisions are made when there are no remaining paramount objections. So there is an informed consent from all the participants. When we talk about consent, we need to insert the idea of degree of tolerance and range of tolerance to a certain proposal. Because in sociocracy, there is definitely what we prefer, so what we really want. If there is a proposal and we really agree on that, it's what we prefer. Then there is something that we are not extremely keen on it, but we can tolerate it. So we can say that we can live with it. So we have a range of tolerance. And then there is the objection. The objection is what we cannot work with, and therefore we say we object to a proposal. You remember when I say that it's fundamental in an organization to have a clear vision, mission, and aim? Well, the other reason why it's important to have clear aim is that we can only object in sociocracy if a proposal goes against the aim of the organization or against my role. So if a proposal stops me to doing my role. So this is really important in how we work with the consent. How the consent process works? It's a 3-step process. The first step, there is a proposal. We always work with proposal. When there is a scenario, well, situation that we need to solve, the first thing is we try to construct a proposal. And we offer the proposal to a circle. The first step is the person explain the proposal and everyone needs to understand it. So there is a round of clarification. The facilitator will say, do you have clarifying questions or is everything clear? And so there, the person that presented the proposal can offer information. After that, there is a quick reaction round. So there is one round that has to be very quick, in which people can react to the proposal. So saying what they think. And this is important because at the end of this very quick round, and it has to be quick, otherwise we get stuck in the second round, the person that presents the proposal can decide to change something, so adjusting the proposal according to what the other said. And at the end of this, when the person that presents the proposal might change it and reformulate, there is another round that is the round of consent. So the facilitator will ask everyone if they consent to the proposal. Or even better, the question is more, is there any objection to this proposal? If there are objections, it means that there is something that this proposal goes against the aim of the circle or blocks the person, stops the person to have their own role in the circle. So if there are objections, we need to understand the objection, explore a potential integration of the objection, and then finally, if we can integrate the objection, we do another consent round. How does it work with children or with students of secondary school? We can definitely work in rounds, and we can just orally do the 3 circles. But when we discuss with smaller students and children from kindergarten and primary school, it's difficult and long to do this round. So one way to go is to have the thumbs. So thumbs up if they prefer the proposal, so they really like it. some sideways if they tolerate these proposals, if they can live with the proposal. They don't love it, but they can live it, or thumbs down if they object to the proposal. Same thing can be done with posters. Some schools use posters, so green poster if they really love the proposal, yellow if they can live with, red to stop it. It's very tricky, in particular for small students, to understand what's the objection. That normally they start to object because they don't like something, but it's important to enter in the mindset that you object only if this proposal is not safe to try for the group. So it's harming the aim of the group, or it's harming the role of one person in the group. It's important to understand that objections are a sort of gift brought to the group. So we don't need to be scared of objection, because it's thanks to the objection that the proposal gets better and align better with the school aim and the circle aims. As I said, the objection is to be linked to the mission and the aim of the circle, and they are thought for the well-being of the whole school and of the whole circle. That's something that it's also very important, and it creates a sense of togetherness with students when you know that you object to something because you want to create a better environment, and so you know that this proposal might be harmful not only for you but for the well-being of the circle. So it's important again to remember that a person is not a role in sociocracy. So as students, it's in a circle is not talking about just about herself or himself. It's about talking about its role in the circle. So its role as a student, or it might be in another circle, so it might take another responsibility. So it's not talking about what he or she likes, but really about what's the role. So the role is really important to clarify. Every circle member can object, of course, but people outside the circle can be heard, can give feedback, but will not be able to object to a decision because they are not part of the circle. And the reason is because the person in the circle know very well what to decide and are involved in the work. One important thing is consider the power dynamics that there could be and that they need to be addressed. It means that sometimes in organization we use sociocracy, but still there are some unspoken power dynamics that stop some people to object or stop some people to say, because there is an imbalance of power, because some people are more charismatic than others. And so in order to have a real good process, those power dynamics really need to be addressed so that everyone can have the same rights to express. So at school, one of the best way to deal with consent, but in general to make decisions and to discuss, is talking in rounds. Talking in rounds, it's a way to ensure that everyone's voice is heard. One way also to discuss, like to tackle power imbalance, is if we talk in round, everyone would have the same possibility to talk. And so we avoid that there is always the same person that it's talking and the shyer one that's never talk. So in rounds, everyone speak one by one. The facilitator normally pick one person in the circle to start, and it can also be done with an initial question or a prompt. And we can have this round also to have feedback or to improve the class atmosphere. So question as, how do you want to be treated in your class, or what do you want to learn more in your class? And starting having this round with students, it's really extremely important because it starts mobilizing their interest, what they want to do, and allowing them to express themselves. With students, it's interesting to have objects that clarify the different roles. I explained to you that there are two important roles, that's the leader and the delegate, but also the facilitator and the secretary. Some schools used objects to identify those roles in the circle. So you can have a hat for a facilitator, a big pen for the secretary, an arrow for a leader, or some objects so that students or young children can take this object and remind that in this moment, in this circle, they are the facilitator, they are the secretary. And so it's really visible what's the role of everyone. Other two roles that I really like normally to add in circle is the timekeeper. So it's always the person that takes care of the time, and the guardian of emotion, which is a person that takes care that everyone feels well in the circle. Sometimes it's the facilitator that does this role, but I think it's really important to divide these two if we have enough person in the circle, so that the facilitator doesn't have too many things to do. Here it's just a list of common mistakes that can be done when opening up to consent and circle and sociocracy with students and with children. And it's taken by the Book of Hope Wilder, Let's Decide Together, that I will then show you at the end of the presentation. One mistake is assuming that children will want to take part in every decision you want to make. And that's not the case. And in most school, I see that adults trying to involve students in most decisions, but it's not, they might not be interested. So, and it's also okay. So you can make it some meetings optional. And so that those students that are not yet interested, are not yet motivated to discuss and decide about something, they don't feel forced to. As I said, well, the other one is regarding the clarity of domain, but we have already discussed about that. The other is assuming that children will proactively engage in this process without support. If on the other hand, we see that it comes quite spontaneously for young children to actually start taking decisions collaboratively. They need a constant support of adults to frame the meetings, to remind them how it's going, what is the structure we are in. So before it comes natural, it takes a lot of time to get this support. Another important thing that I want to remind again is in the concept of domain, we cannot take the power away for children after having given it to them. And this I saw happening in many schools, like let's decide all together, and then the sphere of decision of children gets smaller and smaller, and this breach the trust. Leading meetings that are too long or boring, it's very important to keep meeting as short as possible. And the smaller the children, the shorter needs to be the meeting. So we're talking really about, at the beginning, meetings with just one topic per time, because small children cannot handle attention span for a long time. Let's make it also more playful. We can have more manipulative material when we are in circle, because these allow also the focus. I see sometimes teachers that they get mad because children are playing with pens or with things when they're receiving a lesson, but it's actually a way to focus. So I would actually suggest to bring much more manipulative material in meetings to allow focusing and to listening. And then, of course, teaching by talking rather than by doing. Yes, Diego.
Yes, I'm curious about this mistake about taking power away from children after having given it to them, which is, I think, is a big topic, because sometimes you act out of the best intentions on being maybe naive or less experienced in believing that you're going to be, or children are going to be able to take certain type of decisions, and then you realize is leading to disaster. So how do you deal with that when you have realized you made a mistake in that and you need to take power from them?
Yeah, I think those are two different things. One thing is the dynamic governance and learning from mistake and adjusting, because you out of the best intention with the children and you said, guys, let's decide on everything, let's decide on all the food you want to eat, let's decide on this. And after the experience, you realize, okay, we probably realize that you are not mature enough to take the responsibility to decide on some circle, and therefore you really explain to them that because your role as adult is to safeguard the safety of the school, the founding rule of the school, you decided otherwise. But then you explain the process, and it's not that you want to, let's say, restrict their freedom. It's just that they probably were not able to use the freedom with taking the responsibility that is connected. And this happened quite often in democratic school. I don't think that this is it's a breach of trust in children if you have this communication that is clear, and if they are in this process, and if they see and witness this. The other way is just say, okay, now you can, one day a week you can decide what to study, and then you say, no, actually no, we decided it's the other way around, and therefore so you see the difference when you don't really involve children in the decision, in the reasoning, in understanding what is together. And the other is, I just remove this, and I just remove the power from you, from the top down. So I think there you can really create an environment of mistrust. I don't know if that explains a little bit more what I meant there.
Yes, I mean, it does, and that's the same way I put it. But sometimes real life doesn't happen like that. Either you don't have the time to explain things properly, or you don't have even the chance or the proper environment. And from the ideal situation, even in making mistakes ideally and treating them properly, sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. And once it happens and there's a breach of trust, and that's a personal question. I really don't know what's the best course of action. Can you regain the trust, if just by explaining, or give an example with future occasions, or I don't know. Just I think everyone will have like a different experience on this. It has happened to us, being trusting that everything would be ideally working, and then realizing that safety was compromised, that even children well-being was compromised. So you have to take action.
Yes, I think that's something that many democratic school experienced, because most of them start with theoretically the idea that everything will go well and there will just be self-management of all the students and the children, and then the reality is that the roles are really different, and so it takes time to establish the boundaries and the right set of domains. So I think every organization at the beginning struggles in understanding what's their own domain, but it's not only with the students, it's also between parents and pedagogical circle, for instance. So, and in the first year of every school and every organization, it's all about adjusting. Of course, it's more complicated when it's about children, because they might not be involved in all the reasoning about the governance as are the adults. So it's more difficult to explain then, oh, we are testing the first year. But I think that the good willingness is understood when when are part of this process.
If I can add something. For instance, last year, so we started with the democratic school with a council of students, and they were at the end of the year, they've done a lot of projects. They were very happy with the changes that they've seen and noticed in the school. I mean, in 1 year there were more changes rather if we compare with the eight last years. That was like big success. Anyway. At the end of the year, if we do the debriefing, most of the students, you could feel the frustration because of the communication the headmaster, the principal had, because they had suggestions, they had changes to propose, but still, most of the time, the principal said no, 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 no. You could feel the frustration in the students, but they weren't able to say it directly to the principal. So at the beginning of this year, I told her, I'm privileged because I'm quite close to my principal, so we are friends, so we can talk like this. It's not a problem of a hierarchy and stuff, which helps, of course. So I went to her and I told her, you have to stop saying no to them all the time, because otherwise it's worse. I mean, the project will be worse than expected, because they will see that democracy fails. If you are in a real democracy, you should, everyone is allowed to have projects and everyone is allowed to have a voice. But if you say no to the voices every time, I mean, there's no point to have real elections. There's no point to suggest new changes in the school. So and so we have to adapt, and this is how we adapt at the beginning of this year. Even on communication, how do we communicate what we do, because it's a lot of work. We need to settle processes as well. For instance, right now, if I leave the school, I'm not sure that the school will stay democratic, because I hold everything, every project I manage them. So if I'm not there, the school will come back to a traditional school, So there is no process. So how do we do that? Because again, we need money and we don't have. So that's we need money, we need time, we need people. So that's the point. But adaptation is a key, because indeed you could but again, adaptation, you need to ask them what needs to be adapted, because if you think something, usually you're wrong. Their brain is just you're only 10 or 15 or older than them, but still, it's not the same way of working. So it's really useful to ask them what needs to be changed.
Yes, and we would discuss just after few slides about the importance of feedback, and it's really exactly about this, like asking constantly how it's going, what do you think, like assess together. I think it's a key element. Also answering to you, Diego, once you also include students in the assessment of what things are working, what are not working, then if the system changes and adapts, they are on the loop, because you also take their feedback in consideration. So here I was proposing an exercise.
Yeah,
Helen?
there's a question from Min as well.
Just,
I didn't
Martina,
see.
I'd like to ask you a more, thank you, Ellen, a more operational question. So you say that in those circles, for those consent to work, What are the number of people in it? About from how many people about?
Yes, first of all, sorry, because I don't see all of you. I just see 3 people down.
Oh.
So if you raise your hand, I don't see you. So maybe Ellen, can you, yes, tell me if anyone is raising their hand, thanks, or just open the mic so I can. So I suggest here from 8 to 12. I don't know where I wrote it, or somewhere. I think it's a good number. Because it allows sorry, not from 8 to 12, from 3 to 12 maximum people. 3 because it's a minimum number that we have a meaningful discussion, but sometimes there are circles created by 2 persons, and it's okay. Like in our organization, we have a circle that has 2 persons, for instance. I would say maximum 12. It's not a strict number, but we see that if we arrive to 20, it's impossible to arrive to a consent. Or you can arrive to a consent, but everyone is just exhausted at the end of this long round. So, for instance, what we can do in school, if we have a class that is composed by 25 students, that what we can do is create sub-circles. So based on student interest, would some student be interested in be part of sub-circle that it's more organizing activities after the school? One that is more interested in is actually proposing changes in the class setting, and another interested in proposing changes into the activities done, the subjects discussed during the lecture. Then we can create 3 sub-circles within a class that are more efficient, and then they can meet and debrief about what discussed and decided. Because sometimes bringing the decision with a big class of students, I don't know how many you have, but it can be really tiring, and then if at the beginning it's so tiring, it's difficult to put in place the process. No, like students get tired and annoyed by these long processes.
I have a class of 26, so that's the question why I asked.
Yes. Exactly. And what is interesting is that you can create sub-circle that contaminate different classes, based on interest. So this is also a way for students to meet other classmates that are from other classes based on some interest, so that it creates much more exchanges in the school. Let's go ahead. I think we need to skip the exercise, but I would just leave it for you, and Helen, you can share the slides. And so it was just an exercise with a scenario on how to make consent, arrive to consent. But so I just suggest you to use small example and small scenarios in your class, not to start with very broad and philosophical topics where to take decision with consent, but very practical example. Like the one I proposed here was just there was a group, a club. That's a real example of my children's school, where they had a Lego club, and some they were just wanted to keep their construction on the table all the time, and it was stop others to use the building block of Legos. And they arrived 2 weeks ago to a consent decision on how to deal with that. So just small details that arrive every day in your school life could be addressed with consent decision making. And when you pass maybe this phase of deciding about very practical thing, you could even arrive to consent with more broader and more philosophical topics maybe. But let's pass to the last point that I want to touch here. That is let's say the third important point that Kylian was mentioning, is the importance of asking to everyone. And so the importance of have continuous evolution by feedback in the organization. And this is the way we constantly improve over time with sociocracy. In sociocracy, we never take final decisions. We say that it's safe enough for now, good enough to try. So decisions are good now, but might be changed tomorrow. And this is a way in which then we give feedback and we change constantly into the standard we improve. This is a sort of working in iteration in which we don't aim for the perfect solution. We aim for what it feels as safe enough in this moment. But in order to have this process, we need to have clear feedback. And we need to instill a feedback culture. And I think the school is the perfect environment where we can grow our feedback culture, because as adults, for us, it's extremely difficult because we have many barriers. We feel that we are disappointing other, or we are hurting other if we provide comments and feedback, because we never done experience that much in our life. But so starting with children and students, it's really important that we can instill this culture of improvement, and it's collective improvement, because we improve together and we move ahead. So for every decision we take, for every activity we do, for everything for every action, for every event, we have a feedback round at the end. And so feedback can be done in circles, but can also be done one-to-one, or it can be done at the end of every meeting. So for instance, every time we meet in our organization, we have a check-in moment in which we say how we are doing and how we arrive here. And we have a checkout, which we have also a feedback. And what we will do also in this session, at the end of this session, we will ask you a checkout and feedback, because that's just a way of working and constantly improving that needs to be in our mindset. We can facilitate feedback by having some prompts, some generating questions like, what are the problems you're seeing? How can we work better together? Of course, feedback are also a way of avoiding conflicts, but it's not that we don't have, and sociocracy is not that it's the magic solution to avoid conflict among persons. That's more as a tool that gives you a structure and a governance. But then a human being needs to, of course, learn to live together, and conflict will always arise. One way is give feedback. Another way that I always propose for school is to using sharing circles that are just moments in which we all gather together and share. It's a moment of sharing how you're doing, how you're feeling. And this avoids an escalation of conflict, an escalation of things not said and kept hidden for weeks or years. And so in some circle, it's nice to instill a moment of having a sharing circle every month, every 2 months. So just a way to be aware that if there is something that is not good, it will be shared in that moment. And a very interesting tool that goes well with sociocracy is nonviolent communication. And so I really invite you, every time you give a feedback to a student or your colleague, to always follow the nonviolent communication steps. And that's also something that if you start with your students to an earlier age, it's very easy then to get embodied and to carry on to create a very healthier educational setting. So the last point that I want to discuss with you today is the open elections. I left it for the last because I think those are one of the most powerful tool that we have in Sociocracy, ones that we can use in every kind of school. And they contain all the key elements that we discussed so far: the consent, the circle, links, and the feedback. In Sociocracy, individuals are elected to roles and responsibility through open discussion using consent decision-making. So the 3 steps that we saw of consent decision-making are used to elect people. And the election is very different from normal elections because there are no candidates. So they are also called election without candidates. And I will explain you how it works and why it's so powerful. And I will challenge you to try this in your school setting. So how does it work? We imagine we want to define a candidate for the school assembly. And we need to define the school leader for the school assembly. Then we need to clearly define the role. So what will be the role and what are the qualifications that this role entail? And we need to write it down. So this is done in rounds. So everyone contributes to write down the qualification needed to be, for instance, the leader attending to the school assembly. And then we have a consent on the qualifications. So everyone agrees that those are the required qualifications. Then everyone writes down the nomination, and people can self-nominate themselves or they can nominate others. And we have a nomination round in which everyone said, I nominate Helen to be the leader to go to the school assembly. After and you explain why. So everyone needs to explain why you nominate this person. And this is extremely powerful because when you nominate, you explain why. It's a celebration of the skill of the other person. So every time it's a sort of, it's a joy because you explain, it's always positive. So you nominate someone and you explain why you like this in this person. And then we have a second round in which we can change our idea. And it often happens that in the second round, we change, some people change their mind and there is an alignment. Then the facilitator proposes a candidate, and this proposal is not based on the majority. So it's not based on the fact that more people are supporting one candidate, but it's based on the qualification. So it's really based on what are the elements that everyone brought up to support a candidate. And then we would start the round of consent around this candidate. And finally, if there are no objections, we arrive to elect this person. And at the very end of the election process, we ask the person that has been elected if wants to be in that role. So why I think this is extremely important, because it's a process in which the person that are more shy, more reluctant to emerge can be brought up by the rest of the group. So even those that would be reluctant to candidate themselves can be supported by the group. It's a very transparent way of telling what you think about the others in your group. It's a very transparent way to elect and therefore to change the structure of the organization. And it's a way of giving feedback that maintain the organization very dynamic. And it's also, now that I explained to you, it seems complicated, but when you do with students, with even small children, it's very, very easy to put in place. And what I leave you down, it's also a link of a PDF that explains very in detail how to do sociocratic election in classes.
Martina, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
As it's only at the very end that the person agrees or not to take the role. If that person refuses, first, does it, I don't know, piss off everyone there because we took time to elect that person? And second, if we elect the person in second position, how that person will feel, you know, like I'm the second one, you know, I was not the one chosen, but now as the first one decided to refuse, I'm in charge. How does it, you know, happen in practice?
The thing is, it's why I think it's really powerful is because it's always a positive election. And the reason why, first of all, we know that at the end the candidate can refuse, and even if refused, all the process has been extremely positive for that person. And so the outcome, it's really extremely rich because you receive, at the end, you receive compliments about your quality through all the group. And this is one of the really most important things that brings the group up. So I don't think it's never a wasted time, even if the person refused. And then if the person refused, we don't choose the second one, we just redo another round. Of course, it might be possible that it's the second person that will be elected, which will not feel like, oh, I'm the second one. I would feel like, okay, like I'm the plan B, because in the round, everyone will point out to the quality of that person again. You know, so it's again a celebration for that person. And so it's a very beautiful process to experience. As I say, it might be tough for someone that are not re-elected. The tough thing is when you leave a role, you want to be re-elected, but you might not be re-elected because people might prefer someone else. But that's also the way in which the sociocratic organization can be dynamic, can be regenerate themselves. And if you don't do a good job, you know, it will pass to someone else.
Thank you.
I suggest that we move on because I want to ensure that there's enough time for a closing round and some quick feedback.
Yes, I think we are right at the end. Only thing is what I said is to remember that an organization structure is never done or complete. It's always evolving. So we are never set. We need to always keep adjusting and maintain a flexible mindset. And we leave you with this picture of our team having one of the circle meetings. And here I put some inspirations about schools that use sociocracy in Europe. So you can see their website. Most of them are public schools. So you can also see how sociocracy is applied in public education. And I leave you also with the inspiration of the Children's Parliament in India, where in more than 10,000 neighborhoods there are children gathering and having ministry on different sector and having impact in their neighborhood since decades now. So I leave you with the consideration of empowering children for change. That's the best way that we can promote change in our society, following those examples. And here, a suggestion also of a book to read. It's Let's Decide Together from Hope Wilder. It's mostly dedicated to young children, so to use sociocracy with young children, but it has a very practical inspiration. You can watch, if you haven't done yet, the documentary School Circle, which is based on one sociocratic school in the Netherlands. And you can also see in our website the project Sociocracy in School that it's just finished, and read the research and also the guidelines to promote sociocracy in school, and you can give them to maybe your school principal, to parents, to see how can we promote it better. So my presentation is finished. I took almost 2 hours. So thanks for being still there and alive. I don't know if you have question besides the one you already asked.
I have, Martina, thank you so much. It was a great presentation, very clear presentation. And yes, I have a million of questions, of course, but as the others, I guess, but I have to choose some of them. I think one of them is, of course, the question of time. We sometimes, as I teach math, I don't even have the time to cover all the subjects, you know, in a school year. I love this idea of sociocracy, but how do we find time to implement that in school? How did the other school do?
Yeah, first of all, we need to think that it's a very slow process. So if we take the experience of, for instance, of public school implementing sociocracy, they started on a 10-year sometimes process. So it's not that everything can be done from one day to the other. So it can start from a small circle. It can even start from a parent circle or just from a class. Okay, you can start implementing small action in your class and then slowly spreading out. So if we think about now from tomorrow, I have to completely change my school structure, and that sounds very overwhelming. So the suggestion that I can give you is to do small action in your class and start talking with your colleagues about what you do, start talking with your students, and what would be the desire. And only in the moment in which you can be maybe 2-3 teachers, then you can maybe go to the next level that is more structural, and then you might maybe want to find an external sociocratic expert that comes to your school and supports the whole organization change. But it's true that the time is a key element, even for schools that already established sociocracy. The time to meet and to have those meetings at the beginning is problematic, mostly because at the beginning it takes time to get adjusted to those tools. After time, it's much quicker, but at the beginning, it needs to invest in time. So my suggestion is to start really small, with small action, and then make these things rolling, and then try to be 2 or 3 change makers in your school at least, so that it can have a bigger impact, but not being only on your shoulders.
Yes, thank you. And in practice, if you want to start with your class, if I'm really, you know, very tight on the time for my subject, you know, I have to cover on the school year, then I should propose them to meet outside the, you know, the math lecture, math lesson, if they agree to meet outside the, you know, the regular hours. Does it work?
Well, I guess it depends on what do you want to bring. What are the I see there's a feedback started. What are the tools that you want to implement? If you want to start a students' parliament with them, then it might take some time. So it's a good idea to do after your working hours if you're very tight scheduled. But if you want to implement some sociocratic practice within your subject, like let's decide which book reading about math, or how did you like your class? Let's have a feedback round. What would you like me to change in my class, or what would do otherwise? Then those are things that you can clearly do during your classes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Martina, I just put it in the chat, but I guess you didn't see. I just launched the feedback form already for those who don't have questions. They can get started on that. Won't take long to fill in.
Okay. In the meantime, has anyone question?
Yes, I just finished the feedback form. And I would also like to join to main opinion that it was a great presentation. Thank you very much. It was very clear, the structure, very easy to understand, and really inspirational. So thank you very much for your time and for opening this up for free for anyone who wants to join. Let's keep in touch. I will have to leave now. I need to do some things. Of course, I have a million questions through all your materials, and well, that's it. So thank you for being there. Hi to everyone in the chat, and let's meet some other time.
Yeah. So it's Diego from Caledo, right?
Yes, Caleide International School.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll be in touch. I'll send you a message.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Diego.
Bye.
And so, as I said, every time we finish a meeting, we have a checkout. And so our suggestion is to do a checkout now, that it's also a feedback. So if there are no more questions, maybe we can.
May I just ask one more question?
Yes, please.
It's about, I always, as I told you, I dreamt about having, working in a school that is working in sociocracy. Do you think it's possible to implement that if the head of school is not fond of it? And is it possible to change an existing school with, sometimes the teachers who are there for 20 years and they don't want to change the practice? Or do you think it's easier to start, afresh, a new school from scratch?
Well, you will have different challenges, but you would face challenges in both situations. There are examples, and I think maybe if you send us an email, I would have your email and I can send you case studies of public school implementing sociocracy and what are the challenges they were facing in all the different steps of implementation. But what is for sure is that it's impossible to implement full sociocracy if the principal doesn't want to let the power. What is possible, it's implementing sociocracy in some aspects of your school, what I said. Same thing for some teachers. If they are reluctant, they might still not want to implement sociocracy in their class, and it's impossible to change their mindset. Of course, if your headmaster is willing to, it's there, you have the possibility to implement fully sociocracy in all your school structure. If you start from scratch, you will have different problems and different challenges that are mostly not connected with the structure, because if you start from the zero, it's much easier to create a new structure and a strong structure. But then, a new school comes with a whole set of other difficulties.
Administrative difficulties, I guess.
And also cultural difficulties and economical difficulties. And so, yes. Okay. So if no more question, I will invite you to a final checkout round, in which I ask two questions. What is one inspiration that you got from this workshop? And if there is one practical or practice or tool that you will want to test in your school?
I will go first. I think that I like the documentary you mentioned, so I will watch it. Also, the reference of the organization working here in Brussels, I'll definitely contact them. So thank you for that. Also, thank you for the presentation. And a practical school, I like the one you've mentioned with the election based on positive criteria and skills of the students. I mean, they really lack ways of saying how good they are and mention how good the others are. So it's a very nice way to do that with them. So I like it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kylian.
Just one comment at the end, okay? Actually, the whole concept of sociocracy is quite new to me. So the whole your presentation was very inspiring to me, and the idea that there is some structure in a democratic school like this, for example, is very like reassuring to me at the moment. Thank you.
Yes,
you.
and for me, you know, I've been thinking for a long time that school governance has, you know, to change, and sometimes, you know, you feel alone there, because when you talk to about governance with other colleagues, they're not really into it, so they say, okay, that's maybe, and I feel very reassured and also motivated. You know, it's like you refreshed my motivation about sociocracy in school. Thank you so much for your presentation and the resources that you have. You have a lot of resources, and it's not so easy to find them. So it's great to have your website and you as a support, you know, a network, a group to be able to exchange about that. Yes, I'm gonna try. I think also like Kylian, the election by consent. I knew that already. I tried it a few years ago in another school, but yes, as you say, sometimes we can implement small things, and we don't have to implement everything. Even small things, it can already make a difference, even though it's not full sociocracy. And so sometimes we think about it's everything, all or nothing, but it's not true actually. So thank you for the inspiration.
Thank you very much. Helen, do you want to do your checkout?
Yeah, thank you, Martina. I enjoyed it as well. The exercises as well were, you know, really insightful to hear from teachers themselves, like their own experiences, and yeah, super insightful. I'd like to take down the names of your schools if possible.
Sure. Mine is Marius Renard.
I will send you all of it by email if it's okay for you.
Yeah, of
So
course.
easier. Okay,
Yeah.
so we keep in touch.
Yeah.
I'll write it in chat, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And then for my checkout, I think my inspiration is always seeing teacher coming from more conventional and traditional school, making change. It's for me, it's a huge source of inspiration. So I really hope that Quest as an organization can contribute to your work. And also at the same time, seeing very courageous persons starting new schools, which is something that it's one of the most challenging things I did in my life. So good luck to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
See you
Bye
soon.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.